Okay, so I'm going to try and quickly break down texturing SketchUp models. Um, this will more pertain to mapping the models than actually creating the textures. But I've actually had several people ask me questions about this. So if you're one of those people out there, you're not the first one. So that's why I decided to do this video. So let's see. What I want to start out with here is just how I go about texturing walls and stuff, such as these here. Um, for starters, I'd say that SketchUp, be quite frank, actually, it's pretty tedious to use when it comes to applying textures or quote mapping textures. Part of that is because SketchUp really doesn't have any formal mapping features in it. They're all kind of this, I don't know, I guess I'd call them sort of um, hokey tools when it comes to applying textures. And it's kind of made for people, so they can understand, how to use the tool. It's obvious. I think it is obviously easier to understand than, say, mapping in Blender or Gmax, but it definitely is not the easiest as far as at least for the seasoned veteran in modeling. Okay, so I actually have some untextured walls, as it turns out, and that is actually sort of by accident on my part because I deleted a texture and then it wrecked everything. But it's not a big deal. Mapping walls isn't that hard. But let's see here. What I want to do... Actually, let me first of all show you a texture, a wall texture. You can see them here, but let me just find one that you can actually look at. Okay, so here, this texture belongs over here on the A and B concourses. I'm pretty sure. Yep. And so you can see it. It's just a tileable texture, so it repeats this way. And that it repeats all the way around and along the walls. And you can see I added a decent amount of shading to it to kind of give a little more depth to the texture. One thing with SketchUp models, since SketchUp doesn't have rendering capabilities to create shadows and stuff, you need to hand paint your shadows. And it's really important that you do that to make your textures have a little more life, a little more interest. If you don't have any shadows or anything, your model's going to look really flat. So you can see it's shaded here. It's shaded on the bottom a little bit. I'd probably, looking back, I think I would remove some of the shading up on the top and add a little more towards the bottom. But that's just me. Anyhow, the way we map that to a wall, let's see. I actually kind of remember I was going to do something with these walls over here. But let's just use this texture right here. So, or better yet, if I had a different texture I could use there. Maybe that one. I don't know, I have a lot of these wall textures, guys. Let's see. Oh well, I'm just going to use this one here. So, if I could find my paint bucket wherever it went. Here it is. I'm going to just use the sample paint tool. Okay. Of course, just drop it in, and it's already pretty well mapped. One little trick is if let's say you have a bunch of walls that are all the same height, if you map one, let's see here. Maybe I ought to create something so I can explain this a little better. Let me create a square real quick and extrude it. Okay. So you have a completely unmapped cube here. I'm going to drop this texture in. So I'm going to map this, I'm going to select the face, right click, texture, and then position. Okay, so for this I'm just going to take the green pen, just going to scale it up, and then I'm going to click on the texture, click and drag, and just get to where I want it. I'm never too precise with these placements. I get it close, but I don't line it up edge for edge necessarily, because it doesn't really need to be. And that looks close enough. We have a little angle here need to fix. By the way, so you see how SketchUp kind of makes the texture lock in certain places, such like along that edge and stuff. If you don't want the texture to lock, you can hold down Control while you move, and then it won't lock to any edges or anything like that, which can be a good thing to know. Okay, so I have that pretty well mapped. So now if I was to go over to this side and just take the paint bucket, you'd see, well, now I have to map this face, you know, and then you're like, geez, you know, this is going to take me forever. But wait, there's a faster way. If we now take the sample paint tool, just select that face that we just mapped, and as long as your walls are all the same height, you can just go right along here. So I click on this wall, you see it matches now with this wall here. And so now I can go all the way around here, and I'm done. Okay, so that is a lot easier than trying to map each wall individually, which I used to do until I discovered that trick. So I'm going to do this over here in my terminal. I kind of forget what texture I used on this before, but I'm going to try and find an appropriate texture for it. It doesn't really matter that much because it's just a tutorial, but let's see here. I'm just going to use this texture here. Okay, so you come here and you see these walls are not the same height. So when I click it here, of course I have to remap it. So not a big deal. I'm going to right click, texture, position, scale this up. Okay, right there. Okay, now if I take the sample paint tool, click on that face, and click here, the texture isn't going to be mapped right. So maybe what I might do is go over here. This wall is fairly similar in height, so if I just take this wall, click on it with the sample paint tool, come over here, use the paint bucket to drop it in there. I'm going to check the mapping because I'm not sure if those are actually those walls are the same height or not. And looks like I can scale it down a little bit. That's nice right there. Okay, so now if I were to just keep going without using the sample paint tool on this wall, like this, you'd see that these walls aren't mapped correctly. But of course, like I pointed out before, you just take the sample paint tool, click on this wall, the mapped one, and then just go right around here. And you can see it's now positioned just the way you want it. And it even works for like this wall here. Still in the same spot, right where it should be. And so that feature is kind of nice about SketchUp. If I can say anything positive about it, which SketchUp does have its nice points, but I'm so used to these other programs I've been using now that I don't really, I guess I don't appreciate SketchUp as much as I used to. uh, but I still use it, don't get me wrong, guys. Okay, so here, and again, you'd have to map that wall again, but I think I've covered that enough now. Okay, so let's take a look at something like this jetway. Now this is a little different. Unlike the walls and stuff, we can't really use a tileable texture on these jetways, except for, say for example, whatever you call this. This is kind of the main body of the jetway right here. The walls of the jetway, you might call them, which are just kind of a tileable texture. And I might have pointed this out in one video. I'm sure I have in a bunch of videos, but you always want to make sure you use components. So see these, there's 3 different blocks here. So you have this one, this one, this one, and they're all just duplicated components. So I took this one, let's see if I can't just do this real quick. So I took this one, I mapped it to the way it is now. Then I'm going to duplicate it, move it up, and then you take the scale tool, scale it uniformly, and then you duplicate it. Okay, scale it uniformly, etc. And then you had to kind of position them a little bit. But anyhow, that's the gist of that. But then what you can do, and since they're all components of each other, and I assume you know how to make a component, you just select the geometry that you want, right click and say make component. But if I go inside of this component and start editing it, so let's say I want to change this texture, click on that face. Now you can see it did it to all 3 faces. So now, once you go through, let's say you don't make all these things components of each other. Say you went and duplicated your jetway, you got them all placed just the way you like them, and then you realize that you want to change, let's say, your wall texture here, and it's like, oh shoot, now I gotta go and remap every face for every jetway, unless I just want to like start over. Backtrack from all your positioning you did with your jetways, moving them around and stuff. So that's why it's a good idea to use a component. So this way, when I textured these faces, it textured all the jetways at once. And so that just saved you hours of work, probably. And so you need to be very I can't think of the word right now, but yeah, but anyhow, you just need to make sure you make components, because it's going to save you a lot of time and heartache. Okay, so let's take a look at the texture map for this jetway. There's actually a couple, I believe. So here, what I ended up doing, because I want to shade these different faces of the walls of the jetway. So you can kind of see here, there's some top to bottom shading here. The bottom of the jetway is shaded darker, and then the top isn't shaded at all. So that just kind of gives a little more effect of just the way the light might hit it, sort of. But again, that's basically like hand painting shadows on your models. which is very important once again because that adds all the depth to your textures, and it makes it not look so flat when you export it into Flight Simulator. So what I did here, let me see if I can't find. What am I looking for here? Oh, that's right. Jetway texture. I'm a little more organized than I used to be, guys, so kind of I keep all my project files in the same folder and sort of this file system now. So that way if I ever need to back anything up, I just drag my FS Scenery Development folder to my backup drive, and it's all backed up right then and there. I learned the hard way when I upgraded to a new system, and I realized that all my project files were scattered all over my computer, and I was trying to find them all, and I wasn't sure if I had them all or not, so it just became a real hassle. So that's why I just decided, okay, I need to make sure I put all my project files in the same FS, whatever you want to call your file system, I'll put all in the same folder. That way I can just drag and drop my folder to my backup drive, and it's all backed up, and I can sleep well at night. Okay, so here's the new wall texture. I used to have all the walls just mapped to this wall texture right here, but then I split up that texture on a new texture sheet, 3 different ones here. I don't even use this here anymore, this part of the texture sheet, so that's kind of a waste of texture space. But anyhow, so what I did, and that also gave me the ability to create night lighting. So here's the night lighting effect, so you can see how on the top the lighting is fairly even. On the side it's brighter on top, darker on the bottom, and then on the bottom wall it is pitch black. And so that was kind of part of that thought process there. But anyhow, what you can see here, we mapped this, I mapped all these faces to my jetway, and one thing I did, because you can kind of cheat in Sketchup, you can take a look at, say, let's see, this face right here, or this part of the texture sheet. I mapped that to every one of these faces right here. If I get there. So many components, I just have a ton of them. Keep clicking. Okay. So I mapped that to each of these faces, and of course, if you don't know how to do that, what we did now, same sort of idea. Select the face you want to map, texture, position. Where is my position? Oh, there it is. Texture, position, and then you want to right click again, and you want to uncheck fixed pins. Okay, so now what you can do, whoops, okay, you can just use your pins to, so you can click on the pin, position it there, then click and drag, distort your texture however you want it. So usually what I do is say, so I'll take, like, if I want to map this part of the texture sheet to some place on my model, I'm just going to take my pins, move them to the corners. If I can zoom in here without going way past where I want it to. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is a little reference line that kind of locks to the 90 degree there. So I can just place it straight across from this pin. It's just a light, very light dotted blue line. It's kind of hard to see, I'm sure, on the video, but it is there, and you'll see it when you're doing this. Okay, and see that's been kind of locked to that corner right there. And then, of course, then you just drag and drop. Okay, this corner, that corner, and then this corner, and it's mapped to whatever you want to map it to. And again, just really drive this point home because it is very important. You notice that these were all components, so it textured all the faces, or every what you want to call that, every jetway stand there. So that just saved me, several, a lot of time. Actually looks kind of flashy, actually. So I should point out right now that there is a video. Let me see if I can find it real quick, guys. I can't remember what it's called, but I did make a video on mapping these jetways, and it also pertains to any mapping that you want to do outside of just like mapping these walls, which are just tileable textures. If you want to create a texture map like this, so that all the faces are uniform and stuff, I made a video out here, and I'll put the link to the description in the description. But let me see if I can find it real quick. It does use Gmax as sort of a secondary tool to do it, but don't worry. Daunting as Gmax is, I think I explained it well enough that you shouldn't have any trouble. And my internet is not working right now, so I guess I'll just put the link in the description and figure out whatever the video is called. I don't know, but I think it's like Jetway Tutorial Texture Mapping or something. And again, that those mapping methods really apply to any model you create. You could use that anywhere. So basically, that's how I texture my buildings. Hopefully, I made myself clear enough. And again, like even these right here, these are just components of each other. That way, you don't have to position the texture on every face here. Just one, and then I duplicated using the circle tool, or rotate tool, I guess is what it's called. So I kind of went like this. I guess I need to use the control. Whoops. Went like this. Anyhow, yeah, use the circle tool. I haven't used Sketchup in so long, I can't remember how to do that, but they're all just duplicates of each other, rotated a certain number of times. You just use the circle tool. I don't know, it almost feels like I have a video out there on it, but maybe not. Anyhow, you rotate it so many degrees, then you multiply that by the number of faces you have, and bam, you have your round rotunda roof all textured and all that. But anyhow, hopefully that breaks it down for you guys. It has been a long time since I posted any videos, so this will be the first one in quite some time. And I'm still alive and going strong, but I just haven't had time to post any videos, and it takes a long time on my internet because it's so slow to upload anything. But I do have videos sitting on my desktop. I just need to kind of get them together at some point here. So yeah, definitely a lot more content on the way. So happy scenery designing.